Death before Dishonour, laying the false prophets to rest. Tony Rose. Text copyright Tony Rose, 2024. The moral rights of the author have been asserted. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced by any mechanical, photographical, or electronic process, or in the form of a phonographic recording, nor may it be stored in a retrieval system, transmitted, or otherwise be copied for public or private use, other than for fair use, as brief quotations embodied in articles and reviews without prior written permission of the publisher. The information given in this book should not be treated as a substitute for professional medical advice. Always consult a medical practitioner. Any use of information in this book is at the reader's discretion and risk. Neither the author nor the publisher can be held responsible for any loss, claim, or damage arising out of the use or misuse of the suggestions made, the failure to take medical advice, or for any material on third-party websites. Preface. The entire collection of the Fertile Mind series are only an expression of myself and my experience. I am the ultimate creator, and if I am, then you are, which means everyone that creates is the ultimate artist. As we know, art is never finished, it is only released. So at the point of releasing this work, I felt that there was no way that I could have made this work any better. We tend to look back at our artwork from the past with a fresh perspective and see new ways to approach that piece of art. We see how to make it quote unquote better or quote unquote different. But this would imply that we have assumed the role of the judge and are now judging our previous level of perception, but with our own evolution through life, experience, and sharpened skills, we would have acquired more time, knowledge, and wisdom practicing our medium. So I can only suggest that you look back at your previous work as only younger evolutions of yourself, and not a less skilled, less talented, or less experienced artist than you currently are. This work is an attempt to have a conversation between family. So I extend your invitation to remind you that you are an integral part of this cosmic family. In Genesis, these stories and examples could be portrayed as heavy and negative because they may seem, sound, and feel uncomfortable. In Revelation, we will find that bringing these memories to light and developing them from my negative film role will have illuminated and liberated the collective consciousness. This occurs because you shape and mold your experience into beautiful pieces of art, which you can then exhibit to transform the lives of those that come into contact with it. This curates a unique museum with the works of your life on display, which will reflect a beacon of light that others can use to help them navigate the waters of this world. Although the Fertile Mind series will mention God, the Bible, and share interpretations of Scripture, I do not want, need, or expect you to be a religious or spiritual person to relate, resonate, and or receive wisdom from this conversation. I would encourage you to not take my word as gospel, new thought, or the truth, but only be open-minded to it, taking what resonates with you and discarding the rest. Within the Fertile Mind series, you will explore how you are the cause and effect of your own reality. We expose mental diets, mental health, and a mental virus. We transmute old and inappropriate beliefs. We unpack how dangerous it is to give your children and their fertile minds away for others to cultivate. We share examples of how infectious life and death is, and explore how these seeds have either produced life or death into your garden of mind. I can only speak of what I know, and I only share an interpretation of my own experience, which means I may use stories of people that were or are in and around my life to portray a message that may resonate with you. So the characters in these stories, including myself, are only used as examples and are not to be judged or condemned. If at any point this book seems repetitive, it's because mentally we are performing the creative act, and this may require multiple penetrations. If you invest your attention into the words of this book, there will be a return on your investment. First, we must prepare and condition the soil to make room for new life. In its completion, a seed of love and life will be planted within your fertile mind. Your false identities may not like this because the truth will tear away a lot of the myths, stories, and beliefs that have formed it. At no fault of our own, we have been unconsciously tending seeds in our garden that we have grown attached to, forgotten who planted them, when they were planted, and or what fruit they may bear. Being the conscious gardener of your own mind doesn't have to be hard or painful, but in cultivating new soil and preparing for new life, it may feel like work that is uncomfortable and unfamiliar. So if you have the courage to close your eyes to the old world and open your heart to the new world, planting only seeds of love and life, I promise you that the results are worth it. If you choose to continue reading, please know that these words are not intended to hurt, upset, or offend you. These words are only intended to love, heal, and remind you of what you intuitively already know. Thank you for your time and attention. Yours in reflection, Tony Rose. An intuitive reminding. I will start this conversation by reminding you that there is no bad news in the good news. It is now time to release all stories of the world being a hostile place of evil, punishment, and torture. If I and my Father are one, and I am, then He is not up there, out there, somewhere, or elsewhere. God is unconditional love. That is your North Star, compass, and guidance system, which means anything you think, feel, or do outside of unconditional love would be denying yourself. God gives birth to God. So, you, the seed of God, in your own illusion of separation, are at a fork in the road of each moment. You have the privilege to either turn away and deny or turn toward and accept unconditional love. You are God, here to experience yourself, and your only job is to let love rule. If you receive this message, know it in your heart, and accept it as true, there is no need for us to continue this conversation. The fourth chapter in the fertile mind, the first collection of seeds. Death before dishonor, laying the false prophets to rest. John 4:44. For Jesus himself testified that a prophet hath no honor in his own country. Your quote unquote country is not implying the literal word in its location. Your quote unquote country are the people in your life that claim to know you and share quote unquote land with you in this mental state. It's not a personal attack against you. They will try to hold you hostage as someone or something they quote unquote know and are familiar with. It's an identity that they identify with. They want to recognize you so that they can recognize themselves. This allows them to continue to confirm the reality that they affirm. For example, if once upon a time you were overweight, the people that knew you as quote unquote that person will always quote unquote know you as that person. They may find you more or less attractive now, but to them, you'll always be, quote unquote, that person. If once upon a time you were, quote unquote, a party animal, the people that knew you as that person will always know you as that person. They may find you more or less entertaining now, but to them, you will always be that person. They will talk to you like that old person. They will treat you like that old person. and they will want and need you to think, feel, and act like that old person. If you change the word person to version, it would be no different to technology. You get so comfortable with your current version that you don't want anything to change. Even if you know that a change may benefit you, you still resist it, want to be spoon-fed, and will need plenty of time to adjust. I was reminded of this yesterday morning. I had woken up to some sort of automatic update that my mobile phone did without my permission. Upon using my phone, I was met with a keyboard that was way too bright and uncomfortable for me to look at. I keep everything on my phone on a dark mode or theme to avoid having the brightness disturb me. All my phones in the last 8 or 9 years have been on a dark mode or theme from the moment that I unboxed them. So on this morning, I was hot and bothered when my phone changed the color of my keyboard without my approval. After 8 or 9 years of a dark keyboard, my eyes had adjusted to it. I had conditioned them to a dark keyboard, so the sudden change was disturbing and I was too frustrated in the moment to receive the solution. Imagine being in the kitchen and having a pot of boiling water on the stove. You drop your most precious pearl into the pot, but instead of pouring out the water or turning off the gas and waiting for the water to cool down, you insist on trying to get it out right now with your bare hands. You may notice doing this with your emotions all the time. The pearl is you, and you drop your authority, your precious state of being, into a pot of boiling emotions. After being hot and bothered, I tried to change the settings in the moment whilst the water was on the stove, boiling. I let it go and gave, quote unquote, the boiling water, my emotions, time to settle down and cool off throughout the day. Later that night, it had bothered me again as my keyboard was brighter than the downlights in my home. I refused to accept this new reality. As I dug into the settings of my phone once again, I noticed that for me to change the color scheme back to dark, first I needed to turn dark mode off. This made no logical sense to me, but I thought, okay, I'll play. I turned off dark mode, and now my entire phone became a disturbingly bright light. The frustration had quickly resumed. After a few minutes of trying to understand why and how this happened, I tried changing the keyboard theme back to dark again. This finally worked, so I turned the phone's dark mode back on, and that fixed the rest of the screen. So apparently, the phone theme and the keyboard theme have nothing to do with each other, which is fair enough, but to edit the keyboard's color scheme, the phone's dark mode cannot be on. I'm not sure if that makes sense to you, because it still doesn't make sense to me, but alright, it's done. I refuse to settle for something I didn't want. Let's clarify that there is nothing wrong with being a bright light. It doesn't make you better or worse than, quote unquote, a dark light, or even, quote unquote, less bright light. It cannot get you closer to or further away from God. You might be the bright light in someone's life. You may be too bright for them to look at because they have been in the dark for so long. Your presence may make them uncomfortable. They would feel forced to become aware of themselves and their surroundings, so they refuse to accept you as this shining light in their face and in their space. This occurs because you reflect the light that they are, so it may be uncomfortable for them to look into the mirror and see what they project. They may see the current fears, trauma, and or insecurities. You could be in your room at night whilst trying to sleep and have a sibling open your door, turn the lights on and run away. Your sibling could have completely pure and loving intentions. They may have only wanted to check in on you to see if you were okay. They may feel like they're only doing you a favor by showing you the light or lighting up your dark world. Although at that time and in that moment, being shown the light was inappropriate. This is why we all must be careful when sharing the gospel and or shining our light upon others. To some, it could feel like you are forcing an uncomfortable glare upon them against their free will. You may have been wanting to be or shine your light for a while. The transition may have happened naturally. Still, it may have been too uncomfortable to sustain or for others to adjust to. So you may have resorted back to your old, quote unquote, less bright color scheme. You can't expect to switch from being a party animal to being a health nut and still expect to live in the same, quote unquote, state with the same people, doing the same things, eating the same things, and drinking the same things, all while speaking about the same things. You will have to update your friends, family, and coworkers with the new policy. You will have to read them the terms and conditions to upkeep this new state's land. Some may support and promote your new growth, which is always special. Welcome them to live in this new state with you and cherish them. The others will try to hold you hostage as that identity. They insist on talking to you about the same old things and wanting to hang out at the same old places, wanting or needing you to be the same old person. They might catch you up to speed on what's happening with the same old people. They will try to remind you of, quote unquote, the good old times and how fun it would be to do it all again. They will tempt you to come back as, quote unquote, the old man in the old state to continue living the old life with old people. Like a change in physical diet, your change in mental diet is the same. The transitional period is the same. You can no longer sit at the same table and eat with the same people without having to explain or justify yourself. Which means you can no longer go to the same places and talk about the same things at the same times with the same people. For example, if you entered a state of vegan, you would no longer be able to eat in, quote unquote, your country that remembers you in a different state. Your change implies their country has changed, and that change will be met with resistance. Your country will mock and ridicule you for your change of mental state. They will question what's wrong with you and what has happened to you. They will remind you of all the animals you once ate. They will tempt you with the old diet. They will attempt to plant seeds of fear, shame, and or guilt into your fertile mind until you succumb to your old way. As we explored in chapter 3, Noah's Ark, this is when, quote unquote, Noah must build a new world. This would be to overcome the floods of the earth with the seed of life or get washed away in the currents of the old way. They meet change with resistance because it reflects the stagnation of another. This would be the new topic of conversation because aside from the drama and gossip, doom and gloom, people seem to think there's nothing else to talk about with each other. So because we desperately feel the need to make noise, we will do so, even if it's at the expense of someone else's feelings and our relationship with them. We will poke fun at them about what they can and can't eat, what they can and can't do, and where they can and can't go. We will brush it off like we're not trying to insult them. It's all in good fun because we're, quote unquote, making conversation or, quote unquote, having a laugh. Quote unquote, it's called banter. Lighten up. You may justify your inappropriate behavior by wrapping it in humor. You might tell the one that feels insulted that they're being too sensitive. This is how people wash their hands of any accountability. Now that your new diet, lifestyle, and choices are being attacked, the constant need to defend, explain, and justify yourself will only plant seeds of anger, fear, shame, and or guilt into your fertile mind. These seeds will do more harm than good to your new state. They would also do more harm than good to your relationship with these people. To avoid isolation, further ridicule, guilt, and or shame, you may slip and fall back into the old state as the old man to avoid repeating these experiences or having to cut ties with these people. But if you pay attention, you'll notice that you never acknowledge that truth or take accountability for it. You will always blame the new lifestyle, exercise routine, dietary choices, or your immune system, your quote unquote weak body parts, your body's for quote unquote failing, or any of the coaches or mentors you had at the time. You may point your finger and say that they're the reason the change was too hard and or didn't take place, only to avoid accountability and justify resorting to your old ways with the old people in the old world as the old man. It's the path of least resistance. It's easier to continue being the old man, living in the old world because you can play the victim. It's a familiar past that will create a predictable future. That makes you comfortable because you can predict the next moment and you know what to expect. If you change, you are different. And if you are different, that implies the people that are in your life are different. If you have changed, that implies they have changed. So if your world is different, that implies their world is different or is yet to become different. That makes all of us uncomfortable. Different bothers you, but you must bother the soil. If what you know has changed, what do you know? We fear the unknown rather than embracing it. Now you understand why, quote unquote, your country would rather hold you hostage as an identity that they identify with. It's okay, and this is not something to fear, worry, or stress about. It's only the unnatural but natural part of evolution. It says more about them than it does about you. This does not mean that they are good or bad people, and this does not mean that you are better or worse than them. It is either appropriate or inappropriate to continue associating with them. It's unfair to judge or condemn these people for their reaction to your new mental state. They are only expressing your own self-doubts and insecurities about the new path that you're now on. You do this to others too. You hold them hostage as someone or something that you think you know, rather than lifting them up and freeing them to be whoever they wish to be. Their memory of you doesn't define you, but they will try to hold you hostage as that memory. Your memory of them doesn't define them, but you give your memories the power to define and confine them. This holds them hostage as that memory. Your past memory of them is what defines your future experience with them. This is the same as the memories that you hold on to about your own existence. They will define your future experience and the reality that you currently dwell in. Alter the memories into something lovely. If you don't like what you remember, revise it. If you don't like what you remember about yourself or another, revise it. Revision doesn't mean you rub it out and pretend that it didn't happen. You can revise what happened. You can revise how you reacted, or you can revise how you think and feel about what happened. They are only memories, and if those memories were your children, you wouldn't ignore, deny, or neglect them. You would love them and redeem them. Remember something lovely. Remember that experience led you to this very moment. Awareness is the door to a new world, and revision is the key. Using myself as an example, if the people of quote unquote my country see, read, and or try to digest these words, most of them would not resonate with it because of who they think I am. Rather than this book being a guiding light back home for them, these words may only be squiggles on a piece of paper and a nice gesture that I have quote unquote done something with my life. They may see the words but will never receive the message. It came through an identity that they identify with, and that's okay. If I direct these people to someone, somewhere, and elsewhere that I trust is saying the exact same thing in their own way and with their own voice, the potential for the message to resonate with them is a lot higher. They have no stories or opinions attached to quote unquote another person. In short, they do not quote unquote know them. I always direct them inward, but if it's too early or if that makes them uncomfortable, I direct them outward to another that I trust will share the same message of going inwards. If I had to direct you to another, I would direct you straight to Neville Goddard, a wonderful teacher of God. He teaches and interprets scripture and shares plenty of testimonials. They are of people that have listened and applied his work to use their imagination. It's a universal message with a different voice in a different body, and some will be more comfortable with that. I do this because I love them and I do not want, need, nor can I take any credit. It is not personal. It never is. And taking it personal is never good for the person taking it. As lovely and refreshing as that is, it's a paradox because it is all personal. This journey is uniquely yours and tailored for you and by you, which means it couldn't get any more personal. I bring this up for an important reason. Every individual must experience this in their own journey. Your friends, family, and co-workers will have some sort of story and opinions of theirs attached to you as someone or something they think they know. Those labels and identities are their facts of life, so they will throw the stones of their reality at you to hold you hostage as the identity that they identify with. They may never support or even be open to you and your expression of truth because it came through you, and that's okay. They are too close to the sun to feel his warmth. John 1:11. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. He came sharing the good news, and they didn't receive it because they were too close to the sun to feel his warmth. I'm not implying that I am the one and only prophet, but I am implying that I am the one and only prophet. I am implying that each of us born of woman through womb man are the one and only prophet. Those who do nothing but deny and turn themselves and each other away from the truth are the false prophet. This is the perception of quote unquote Jesus and quote unquote Lucifer. The same being of light that, depending on the story and who is telling or selling the story, was either sent or cast down into heaven or hell. They are the same being. One is faith and one is doubt, but they are not separate powers, nor are they either good or evil. Both faith and doubt are necessary. They are the duality that exists within non duality. You must discern which one is appropriate to use in the moment. We dive deeper into discernment versus judgment in the next chapter, Our Mental Seal, what we think and how we feel. But for now, faith and doubt are two sides of the same coin, two sides of the same slice of bread, and two sides of the same piece of paper. We hear this story of Jesus and Lucifer in the title, The Wild Imagination. But for now, both are one, and he who claims I am is. You are the prophet. True or false is your choice and privilege. An example of the false prophet is the quote unquote holy man in your life that judges and condemns people for their choices. According to him, they worship a demon outside of them. He wears the man-made jewelry of an external god, refuses to eat certain foods, eats the bird seeds, and thinks he's a powerful manifesto. He thinks that he is saying and doing all the quote-unquote right things. This false prophet is a holy man that contradicts himself by creating his own demons outside of him. He does so in the very people governments, banks, and or corporations that he judges and condemns. He can only create demons outside of him because this quote unquote good for nothing holy man continues to create quote unquote gods outside of him. A man with all the knowledge from the tree of good and evil, the one tree you were told not to eat from because it makes you the judge of good and evil. A man that shares all the knowledge of good and evil with anyone who will listen, planting seeds of the tree of death into their fertile minds. He only judges and condemns everyone and everything because he eats from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In one breath, he tells you that it is bad for you to eat meat, and in the next breath, he tells you that you can eat whatever you desire. He did not grow and evolve his perspective about his diet. He only flips back and forth on what you should or shouldn't do, depending on his mood, the crowd, and the flow of conversation. He sounds like a confused prophet because he is the false prophet. He sounds like conditional love. He sounds like the least knowledgeable of the prophets. He sounds like he's eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He sounds like he's eating from the tree of death. He is in the state of John the Baptist, a good man, but a false prophet, a good man, but the least in the kingdom. The least in the kingdom is greater than he. He knows, but chooses not to see. He knows his nose is attached to him, part of him, and is him, but he chooses to ignore it, overlook it, and then denies it. He knows the answer and uses the answer throughout his day. He is the answer, but he chooses to ignore, overlook, and deny it. That way he can justify, quote unquote, all the evil in the world and wash his hands of any accountability. It is always attached to him, but he chooses to ignore that the answer is in front of him, part of him, and always with him. He knows it's him, but chooses to ignore and overlook it. He knows the truth, but chooses not to see it. He will eat the bird seeds, fast from a physical diet, and avoid meat. He will eat all the fruit and still refuse to acknowledge that his Father gave him a palate to enjoy the bread of life. He is John the Baptist. John the Baptist is a good man, but a false prophet. He thinks he is doing all the good in the world, but is good for nothing. His word and actions always imply that he and his Father are two. He believes that through his words, his diet, and his actions, he can get closer to his Father. This implies that he can get further away from his Father. John the Baptist will try to make your journey a spiritual competition. He may repeat, there are levels to spirituality. I don't agree that there are levels, as I've witnessed from my own experience that your journey is a spiral staircase. Your perspective is always relevant to where you are on the staircase of life. Although he may be right, his poor mental diet, constant need for validation, and desperate need for worship is proving why he is still on the lowest level. Be greater than John. Be the true prophet. If I and my Father are one, and my Father is unconditional love, that means I am unconditional love. I do not need to do this or do that to satisfy Him. I do not need to stop this or stop that to satisfy Him. If I and my Father are one, I do not need to do this or do that to satisfy myself. And if I and my Father are one, I do not need to stop this or stop that to satisfy myself. There is no room for separation in unconditional love. If your Father wanted or needed you to fast, sacrifice an animal, or abstain from life, all to satisfy Him and get closer to Him, That would be a requirement and imply a conditional love. If I and my Father are one, I cannot get closer to or further away from myself. If your Father needed you to read and recite Scripture, that would imply that His love is conditional to only those that have sight, can read, or read a specific language. It's complete nonsense. Yet you might still try to collect points on the illusory scoreboard of a makeshift heaven. You may think that doing all these quote unquote holy things will earn you good favor, as if God is a heavenly credit union and is looking at your holy credit score. Unconditional love is, you guessed it, unconditional. Deaf, dumb, or blind. Small, short, or overweight. Black, white, or brown. Boy, girl, or confused. It's irrelevant because the love is unconditional. John the Baptist wants to be put on a pedestal as a quote unquote great man who did quote unquote great things. He wants to be worshipped for his nobility because he gave everyone the knowledge from the tree of death. He told them to free themselves from this apparent life of misery and slavery. He is a complete fraud in leading the sheep who follow him astray. The seeds from the tree of death that he plants into their fertile minds will lead them straight to slaughter. He is your friend, your partner, or your relative. Quote unquote, he may be a woman. He may be you. He is only a mental state, and you can discard that mental state. There is a reason why John the Baptist only wants to surround himself with the sheep. They will sit and listen to his stories of knowledge of good and evil. He wants to sit at the top of the mountain with all the knowledge of good and evil. So the sheep will rise him up and worship him as the same almighty false idols that he worships, judges, and condemns. The seeds of death that the false prophets plant into your fertile mind will replace your life-giving God with a death-bringing devil. That single power is your imagination, and imagination is God. You are the operant power of God. He has given you His royal rule and reign, which means you have the privilege and responsibility to bring life or death to others. Choose wisely and choose lovingly, because it is only you that you are doing this to. The false prophets will plant seeds into your fertile mind in an attempt to try and replace the image of life with an image of death. They do this with every subject. For example, they will speak of artificial intelligence being a tool that will help your life in one breath and speak of how it's a demon that will accelerate your death in the next. Which one is it? You cannot serve two masters. There are no maybe babies. You're either pregnant or you're not. They are correct. It's a tool that imagination has made. So we can't demonize it. If it's man-made, then it's God-made. When asked why I haven't been taken advantage of this artificial intelligence, I mentioned to this false prophet that it is a tool and any tool can be useful, but I do not want to substitute using specific tools for specific parts of my work and life. This will only make me a lazy creator if it leads to me using my imagination less. You must refuse to substitute your imagination. You could destroy all the statues, churches, and cities of the world. You could destroy nature, animals, and people, but what you cannot destroy is the imagination. The imagination is God. If I use my imagination less, then I would communicate with God less. If I communicate with God less, I would be implying that my life is godless. So if I'm implying that my life is godless, then I would be implying that I am powerless. If I thought I was powerless, then I would obviously use my power less. If I use my power less, then I would actually be powerless. As spoken about in the first chapter, the fertile mind, the first seed, the soil of your mind is unconditional. So if you plant seeds into your fertile mind of being powerless, you will be met with your harvest, albeit in a shallow and illusory level. The false prophet judged and scoffed at my response and this truth because I denied his attempt to make me godless. I refused to defend, further explain, or justify myself to fools. They are unable to comprehend anything that I am saying. There's no need to judge and or condemn the truth. A question was asked and answered. Is it a tool? Yes. Do we use one tool for every job? No. What is your intention with artificial intelligence? Streamline your work, cut costs, save time? Sure. It's great that it can give you a quote unquote friend. In a time that feels more disconnected than connected, sure, it can give you information about whatever you ask. But is that what you want? To copy and paste your life? To copy and paste the part of your life that you want to push out for content, or to hopefully make money rather than actually providing value? To use your brain less? To think less? To be powerless? To be godless? To not have to do any research and or use your imagination? Do you just want information rather than knowledge and wisdom? You are asking the external computer for ideas rather than the internal computer for ideas. You are asking it for ideas rather than being it. One is external and the other is internal. One was made with the power I speak of, and the other is the power I speak of. Artificial intelligence may be the path of least resistance. You may be able to receive your ideas from source through it, but it is not the source. Please do not give your own wonderful imagination away to anyone or anything outside of you. You are the operant power, not anyone or anything outside of you. You use the tool. The tool should not use you. It serves you. You should not serve it. You operate it. It should not operate you. The entire Fertile Mind series is all about taking back control of your imagination, not allowing others to use it or plant their seeds within it. Sure, artificial intelligence is a wonderful tool that can aid your life, yet it is your choice to either use your brain or allow someone or something else to. I have seen that it allows us to summarize a book. If, for example, someone had used it to summarize this book, they would receive zero value from that summary. How could it summarize the play on words, the way the words work, the breakdown of them, the way my mind works, the flow and connection between everyone and everything, the raw stories and emotions that take you on a journey, all the little nuggets of wisdom that are embedded within each sentence? It can give you a summary of the words, but it won't tell you the story. It can give you a summary of the words, but it won't understand, receive, and share the message. A summary is only giving you information. Reading it, contemplating it, and allowing the words to breathe will allow you to extract the knowledge and wisdom you may find within it. Even if that knowledge and wisdom wasn't received from my words of experience, The simple act of sitting still and being present with something is a powerful statement. That self control, love, and attention to be present with a book will give you knowledge and wisdom about yourself, whilst everyone and everything is screaming for your attention, only in a rush to die. We're habituated to turn on the TV or scroll through our phone, all to appease an addiction to the chemicals you produce from being distracted. A summary of words won't teach you anything from this book. It would be the same as not reading it. It would only, quote unquote, save you time, which would otherwise be spent and wasted elsewhere. Invest in yourself, invest in your time and attention. Although I would empathize and find a silver lining within the act of wanting to summarize anything that I have written, if someone is curious enough to want to know my experience and receive the value from it, they may not have the time, space, or attention span for it. They may use artificial intelligence to summarize this book within a couple of seconds. They're only doing themselves in their life an enormous disservice. It would be no one's loss but their own. I would not be able to judge or condemn them for the act, nor the artificial intelligence that provides that act. Imagination is your most powerful tool, and it is your only tool. All the tools outside of you were once manifest from inside of man using imagination. No tool would exist without your imagination. So if you notice something is or is trying to replace your imagination, you need to take charge, control, and or remove it immediately. Think of it like this. If you remove imagination, you remove God. It's a paradox because God cannot be removed from you because he is you, but he can be denied and turned away from, which means you can turn away and deny yourself from your true divine nature. Unconditional love has given you the privilege to do so. Let's rewrite that sentence. If you replace imagination, you replace God. Also a paradox, because God cannot be replaced because he is you, but he can be denied and turned away from, at least on the shallow level to confirm what you affirm. This is only possible because his love is unconditional and your wish is his command. If you imagine your wish and live from the wish fulfilled, it must come to pass, whether it is a pleasant experience or not. The fertile soil of your mind is unconditional, so you will reap a harvest of your imaginings. Imagine only that which is loving. You may notice doing this all the time. You may want someone or something else to do your thinking for you, then complain about having to live in someone else's idea. All because you think you have no control over the life that you choose to experience. Let's revise that sentence again. If you replace imagination, you replace you. Again, a paradox because it's not possible to replace you. You are the creator of your own world. So if you want to experience your own creation of living in a world where you do not exist, some way and somehow, you will feel the effects of it in this material world, and it won't be pleasant. This is only possible because his love is unconditional, and your wish is his command. We dive deeper into this in the next chapter, Our Mental Seal, What We Think and How We Feel. You have, are, and will continue to form a mental cell around you that encapsulates the world you dwell in. So, in the world that you have chosen to create separation, you would have chosen to turn away and deny yourself. You make your world real, and that real world is animated by you. So if you are living in a world where you have quote unquote replaced or quote unquote removed yourself, it would look, sound, and feel like hell. This may have been an unconscious act. You may have slipped when you felt fear, lack, guilt, or shame. You may have slipped when you felt alone, lost, or worthless. If you were living in a world without you, wouldn't you feel lost and alone? Wouldn't you feel the need to go on a journey of self-discovery? Would you feel anything if you were no longer aware of being? Are those feelings natural? Do they emanate your true nature? You are aware of being, so how could you ever not be aware of being? If you believed that you were living in a world without yourself, wouldn't you go on a journey of self-discovery? Wouldn't you always feel separate, alone, and helpless? Wouldn't you rather live in a world with you, knowing where you are and who you are? In a world that wants to encourage you to be soulless and robotic, be authentic and real. The real will always recognize the real, and together we will share our real experience. There is no need to be afraid of artificial intelligence. The more robotic the world wants to become, the more human connection will continue to rule. People crave human connection. I don't care if you're introverted or extroverted. Deep down, you know that you would rather communicate with another human. Have you ever rung up to order pizza through artificial intelligence? How did that go? Could it understand your name, number, address, or desired pizza? Regardless of the quality of voice recognition, how empty and soulless did it and does it feel? Is that a business that you're emotionally invested in and tell all your friends and family about? Or is it a quick fix from a chain of franchises that are cutting costs to be more efficient and maximize profits? Have you ever had to ring up a company and go through a series of questions from an artificial intelligence? Did it have the answers or ability to resolve anything for you? Let me speak to a human, raise my concern, and receive a resolution so that I can move on with my life. The AI should make your life more efficient and less complicated, yet it traps you in an infinite loop of multiple choice questions, never resolving the one thing that you actually need help with. Cutting costs wasn't a smart investment if you must say or write quote unquote human or quote unquote agent before getting stuck on this loop. Sure, I can let you speak to one of our agents in a few moments, but before I do that, can you tell me what you need help with? Obviously not. I was trying to avoid this. If I could, and or you had the ability to resolve it, I wouldn't have asked to speak to a human. Do you connect with art that was spat out within a few seconds from a computer? Possibly, but why do you connect with any form of expression? Because at the core, you are emotionally invested in the artist and or the story that the art conveys. It may be the work, the style, or the medium. It may be the passion, the commitment, or the persistence. It may be the inspiration, the attitude, or their physical appearance. It may be the brand, the story, or the personality, so on and so forth. The connection is always with the art that makes you feel something. Why? Because someone with feelings expressed themselves in a way that made you feel something. All for you to admire and inspire. Whether it's a tattoo, painting, or drawing, a novel, children's book, or toy, a poem, song, or movie, jewelry, pottery, or a mug, food, the drink, or table. The art reflects who you are and where you are because you are the eternal artist and you are perfect. I know the false prophets will continue to tell you that you're not perfect and that you're just a meek, lonely peasant. I know the false prophets will tell you that you're perfectly imperfect. I know they will tell you that you're not living in a perfect world. I know the false prophets judge and condemn themselves as dirty, rotten sinners. They think that they're terrible people who have done terrible things. They think that they don't deserve the unconditional love because they're worms of the earth. They think that they're only here as pilgrims to spread the gospel of death until their mission is complete. These false prophets hold a quote unquote service every Sunday, but they aren't serving you. They're making servants of you. They are enslaving you as they stand on pedestals and encourage you to worship false idols, all whilst inside false temples. They claim to be preachers of God, so you give them authority. You take their word as gospel and allow them to plant seeds from the tree of death into your fertile mind. If I was like-minded and a false prophet eating from the tree of death, I would tell you that they are evil, which would imply that I'm the judge of what is good and what is evil. That statement, true or false, would make the false prophet and I the same. On a shallow and material level, we are nothing alike, and that is a blessing. On a deep and spiritual level, we are all one, and that too is a blessing. Which means I cannot judge or condemn them for leading the sheep to slaughter. If I am the Father, and these false prophets are my children, I can do nothing but love them, no matter their thoughts, opinions, and choices. I can only imagine that they found the way. Their words are only inappropriate to experience the word. Let's clarify that their word is not the word. If this is how they judge, condemn, and speak about themselves, imagine how they judge, condemn, and speak about you. They judge and condemn you this way because they judge and condemn themselves this way. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never doubt yourself again. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never feel insecure again. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never feel anxious and afraid again. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never hurt another again. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would want to share your perfection with all. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would know that your broken heart was already mended. It was healed by the perfection that you are. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never judge or condemn another again. If you only remembered how perfect you are, you would never want to deny, turn away, or disconnect from yourself. You are the operant power. You are the source of all. The secret source is you. Wouldn't you rather live a wish fulfilled? Either way, you are using your wonderful imagination to either give you a life that you do or don't want to experience. So why not direct it toward a life that you do want to experience? What would a life that you do want to experience feel like? What would that life look like? What would that life sound like? What would that life smell like? What would that life be like? How would you deal with the challenges that occur? How would you react to your world? How would the people in quote unquote your country, your friends, family, and or colleagues react to you? How would the rest of the world view you? You have to ask yourself, do you want to live a life that you want to experience, or have you settled into complaining about a life that you don't want to experience? You cannot serve two masters. You must decide, because if you do not use your imagination, someone or something else will. If there are people in your life that want to plant seeds of fear, doubt, guilt, and or shame into your fertile mind, you must remove them immediately. The false prophets will not make you feel safe and secure in your environment. Instead, their opinions will make you feel anxious, angry, and or afraid. Your internal guidance system will sound immediately when in their presence. You know how you feel after entertaining them and their mental diet: anxious, angry, and or afraid. Prune this vine immediately. Easier said than done, I know. It's a daily practice, my love. If there are people in your life that want to plant seeds of love, light, and unity into your fertile mind, you should cherish and nurture these relationships. Your internal guidance system is at ease. There is no need to have an active security system when in their presence. You know how you feel after entertaining them and their mental diet: safe, empowered, and loved. When reading about the people that make you feel either way, you may have instantly thought of someone. Who is that person? Your mother? Your friend? Cousin? Uncle? Sister? Someone from high school? What is the best way to handle this situation? You cannot allow these people, their thoughts, and opinions to control your life. You cannot allow them to dictate the way you experience your life. This includes not being able to run and hide from this person your whole life. So you must face your fear for it to disappear. You do so by acknowledging, understanding, and loving them and the situation. The answer is always unconditional love, which may include no longer speaking to them, separating from them, or no longer holding onto the relationship. If your phone calls always turn sour, would it be wise to no longer accept phone calls from them? If Sunday lunches with the family always turn sour, would it be wise to no longer attend? Could you revise your phone calls or those Sunday lunches to always being a pleasant experience? Do you want to revise your phone calls or the Sunday lunches to being a pleasant experience? Their facts of life do not have to be your facts of life. Disagree and reject all that is not loving and fruitful to you and your environment. Being ruthless in this manner is not conditional love. Love allows all, but only accepts love and that which multiplies love. When you prune your vine, is it because you do not love that which you prune, or because you love your plant and want it to continue growing? Does pruning shorten or prolong nature's life? For the tree of life to continue being a tree of life, all that is dead must fall. The dead leaves fall off and become compost. That compost now continues feeding the tree of life. It is a self-sustaining organism, and it is, quote unquote, recycling itself. Life begets life. The quote unquote dead turns into new life. Prune the vine of all the false prophets. Do not waver from the life that you want to experience, as their truth is not the truth. If allowed, Their stories, opinions, and facts of life have the potential to overturn and consume your ark, as it was only built to sustain that which is life and can multiply life. A prophet has no honor in his own country. No honor in your country is understandable. Dishonoring your country is unacceptable. If you dishonor, quote unquote, your country, you dishonor yourself. So you must choose death before dishonor. On a material level, it is implying your dwelling place, your surroundings, your home with friends and family, the place that people assume they know who you are. They assume they know your friends and family, or they may even have stories about you, your friends, and your family. Using myself as an example, they have, are, and will continue to say, "Isn't that Arthur's son? Isn't that Louise's son? Doesn't he have tattoos all over his body? How could that be the body of Christ? Jesus would never do that to his body. Doesn't he use coarse language? Isn't he a rascal? Doesn't he drink, smoke, and fool around with women? Didn't he get into lots of trouble? How could he be the Son of God? Hasn't he had every job under the sun? Didn't he get kicked out of school? Wasn't he always in and out of work? Wouldn't the Son of God be wealthy and have a career? Isn't he the crazy one that always talks about the world being a beautiful place? He refuses to listen to anything I say to him about what's going on in the world. He only wants to hear the good stuff. He only wants to see the good stuff. What's wrong with him? What happened to him? Wasn't he telling us that everything we know is a lie? If he's the Son of God, why would he have lived with his mother for so many years? The Son of God could do whatever he wanted, and he's choosing to live with his mother? Yeah, right. I don't see anything special about him. What's so special about him? He sounds like a nut job. I wouldn't listen to anything he says. How could he be the one that was sent down from above? I know his parents, his sisters, and his family. I know who he really is. He's not who he says he is. He used to work for me. He's strange. He's temperamental. On and on and on. These are the quote unquote facts of life, the stones of reality, and they are all real stones of their reality. Initially, they may hurt each time they're thrown at you until you accept being the giant that I am and no longer hear, see, feel, or notice them. Those stones are where I was or may have been in their perception, but they aren't who I am. Those stones of reality only imply where I was mentally and physically. They don't define who I am spiritually. Those stones of reality mean nothing, but we give those stones meaning. We use them to build a prison to hold people hostage as those false identities. Remember that those stones only imply the state you were in or someone's perception of that state. They do not imply your true identity. Remember that those stones of reality were only stepping stones to bring you to this very moment, here and now. If I lived with my mother for my entire life, would it make me a better or worse person? If I had never lived with a mother because I didn't have one, would it make me a better or worse person? If I lived with someone else's mother my entire life, would it make me a better or worse person? If I had married someone else's mother, would it make me a better or worse person? If I had left the home at 16, would it make me a better or worse person? If I had been kicked out at 16, would it make me a better or worse person? Would any of these stories or scenarios make me a better or worse person? Would any of these stories even matter to you? Would any of these stories bring you closer to or further from the truth? Would I receive more or less respect from you? Would the perception of me be of a higher or lower value? Would I be considered more or less successful? Would I be considered more or less of a failure? Would the message throughout the Fertile Mind series be more or less received? Would my physical appearance alter the truth? Could my physical appearance alter the truth? Would my physical appearance determine whether the truth is received? Would where I sleep, who I sleep with, what I eat, what I drink, what I smoke, and or what I wear have anything to do with the truth? Would it change the truth? Could it change the truth? Can the truth be changed? Can we respect the truth more or less? Can we accept the truth more or less? Can we judge and condemn the truth? Now we will exit this rabbit hole as it will never end and has many more connecting tunnels, but what do you notice about these questions? What do you notice about your answers to them? Are you putting way too much importance behind irrelevant details that mean nothing? Are you judging stories and details that mean nothing? Are you the judge? Your country, in a blind ignorance, will do everything in their power to try and keep you hostage in these stories and details. Those details are their memory of you. Anything other than their memory of you is outside the known and familiar. This makes their life, their habits, and the memories that orchestrate them all unknown and uncomfortable. On a material level, you have, are, or will be experiencing people from across the world that support you. They may support you more than your friends and family ever will. This is not to imply that your friends and family do not care about you or that your friends and family do not support you. This is only to imply that no matter what you do outside of your home to your country, you will always be the friend, family, partner, or colleague that they know. So, your country will try to hold you hostage in that image, identity, and memory that they have of you. You can use any man or woman in a history who did quote unquote great or quote unquote terrible things as an example. Whilst either person is in quote unquote public, they may be praised or condemned, admired or criticized. When either person returns home to their quote unquote dwelling place, they are only the person that they are quote unquote remembered as. They are mum, dad, or child. This is the same reason your friends and family will disregard what you have to say, yet listen to a stranger say the exact same thing. They may even listen to a stranger manipulate them with information and accept it as true. They hear your voice, not the message, because that voice is too familiar for them to receive the message. They're too close to the sun to feel his warmth. The quote unquote strangers support you because you are a blank canvas as opposed to your country, who have a painted, signed, and sealed portrait of you hanging on their wall. Your country is your known world, and these people treat their idea of you as a collectible. They refuse to let anyone or anything damage or devalue their idea of you. The quote unquote stranger is the unknown world. The people in this unknown world each live in their own mental seal. In their mental seal, you have no label or identity, and they have no story attached to you. They have no painted, signed, or sealed image of you. You are the blank canvas. This allows them to paint a fresh perception of you with their thoughts and feelings toward you. That is why when meeting anyone new, young or old, boy or girl, it is always fresh and exciting, as neither party has any labels, identities, or stories attached to each other. There are no quote unquote details. There is no quote unquote collected data. It's a blank canvas because you never fought over the remote. They don't owe you money. They never forgot to return a phone call. They have never left you on scene. They haven't said anything that upset you. You never had to share a bathroom. You never had to argue about the amount of hot water. It's quote unquote blank because you don't know each other's quote unquote flaws. You don't have stories and memories about each other of how irritating they were and or still are. That was the natural level. On a spiritual level, your country is implying the dwelling place within your skull, your state of mind which comes from your entertained thoughts. Your state comes from your chosen words, the images you picture, and all the feelings that you attach to them. All the fears, guilt, and old stories that you have been sharing a home with. Those mental roommates will also try to hold you hostage as someone they identify with. The old way of being is the old man that dwells in the old mental state with his old diet. The prophet has no honor in his country, so on a deeper level, he, Noah, must go elsewhere and build a new world with the seed of life. Much like a child that wants to rebel against an authority that only wants to help guide it, your taught knowledge and new formed beliefs act as the child that wants to rebel against God, being the authority. By denying this truth and fighting for your limitations, you are only attempting to rebel against yourself. You do not reject the truth because the person reminding you is claiming to be the one and only God, whilst everyone else is a peasant. You reject it because you may be too close to the person that is trying to remind you that you, too, are God. That reminder contradicts everything that you know and have been programmed to believe. You have been manipulated with stories of separation, stories that plant fear, guilt, shame, judgment, and condemnation into your fertile mind. You may have been forbidden to ask questions or challenge what you have been told, yet you have no problem challenging what others are told or fighting the person trying to rob you of your false idols. Does that sound like a conditional love? One where you cannot question anything, only accept what you're given and be grateful for it? You may even be labeled as the false prophet and the Antichrist for claiming to be the I am that I am. That's alright because it's the hero's journey. If the child of God is curious, would God tell his child to stop being curious? Or would God tell his curious child to sit and be still whilst I feed you all the information that is currently necessary? Would he tell his curious child to not question any of the information he has given them? Do you think unconditional love would do that? That is why you have free will. That is the reason that you experience this life. Rather than sitting in your room, quote unquote, meditating for information until it's time to sleep. What part of, quote unquote, curious child do you not know, understand, or remember? Are you too cool or mature to be the curious child? The one that is yet to remember their divinity and wants to rebel against the truth? Can tolerate you being delusional, yet once you try to remind them that they too are also God in the flesh, then there is some sort of resistance to losing their current identity. In their mind, With their present level of perception, there's no way their friend or relative would be the messenger here on earth to tell or remind them of this truth. Sometimes it may feel irrelevant and deflating to share this intuitive reminding. The people of your country would rather complain about the weather, distract themselves with the TV or social media, and that's okay. Luke 23:34. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. They are asleep, and that too is okay. Do not disturb those that are sleeping. Turning the light on for them during their sleep will only annoy and infuriate them. Sing them a lullaby and let them sleep, for they are yet to receive the hunger for the word of God. Amos 8:11. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord God, that I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread, nor of thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. Unconditional love would not judge or condemn them. It is completely acceptable as they have been given the privilege to experience life whichever way they wish to. If they still hunger for the world of Caesar, the material and immaterial possessions it can offer them, so be it. Imagine lovingly for them. Imagine they have received the message. Imagine that they have found the way. Imagine that they have turned toward and accepted his unconditional love, and let them be. They are you, and you are the I am that I am. Thank you for listening to the audio version of Death Before Dishonour, laying the false prophets to rest. This has been narrated by me, Tony Rose, the author. Thank you for your time and attention. Yours in reflection, Tony Rose.